Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Gorman, owner of Creative Computing, Princeton's only Apple specialist store, located at 423 Wall Street across from the Princeton Airport. Welcome to our show, Apple Talk by Creative Computing. Here we discuss everything from products to software, even technical issues. I'm Jeff. Today, let's start with the iPhone 5. Apple's trying to get the control of a domain called iPhone5.com from a squatter. They've previously gotten control of others like iPhone 4S. It's interesting that people predict this stuff. I bet you someone's already got iPhone 6, and that isn't even being talked about yet. But I suppose it's probably a good business model. We'll see if Apple pays or just simply gets control. I suspect they go for just getting control. The iPhone 5, some more rumors that are going on about it. Now it's rumored to have a 4-inch display, to be just as narrow as the current one is, but a little bit taller. It's more like an HD kind of thing. It's supposed to be thinner, but and like I just said, the same width. Some of the rumors that we have been talking about previously on our show are about a thin, tapered liquid metal back. It doesn't look like that's going to happen so far. An iPhone part maker, swbox.com, is showing a replacement SIM card holder that has a flat edge that would not fit in a tapered iPhone case. This implies a little bit more that the case will be straight, just like the iPhone 4 and 4S are. We shall see, though. Who knows? Rumors are also at the moment that the phone will be out in the early fall, like September-ish. Another rumor about it is it's supposed to have Gorilla Glass 2, which is a thinner and stronger glass. Takes away a little weight, and it makes the phone even more resilient to drops and scratches. The biggest rumor that people are discussing the most on the iPhone 5 is LTE 4G. The 4th generation cellular technology that's in the iPad. This is very likely. The iPad's got it. No reason the phone wouldn't have it. Other manufacturers are doing it. I bet this is a given. And we all want faster internet. The new iPhone iPod jack, the connector jack, is expected to be 16 pins and smaller and faster. It's geared to work with USB 3, not Thunderbolt, probably because Apple, as always, leads the pack and is the only one with Thunderbolt at this time. USB 3.0 will directly be supported by the new Sandy Bridge Max that rumors are strong will be in the summer. I will get back to the Max later in today's show. I'm still personally against having a new jack. I like a faster jack, but unless the device is getting so small that the current jack doesn't fit, I really don't want to see all these devices that people have collected over the years become unusable. In particular, a lot of the devices are from Apple. Some other things related to the iPhone. Griffin has released a solar-powered speakerphone. You mount it on your windshield or something, and it powers by solar. It uses Bluetooth to connect to the iPhone, and it has a motion sensor that somehow detects when the paired device comes into range. It reconnects more quickly than other devices might. Although I personally find my iPhone connects pretty quickly in my car. Steve Wozniak, one of the founders of Apple, you've heard Steve and Steve. Well, Steve Wozniak, the other Steve, he likes to experiment a lot with smartphones. He always tries them all out. So he recently got to try a new Windows phone. The Windows phone that's coming out, it's not Windows 7, it's some variant on Windows 8. It's supposed to be a version of a Windows phone geared at, a version of Windows geared at smartphones. He says he kind of likes it. Steve likes it. Better than any Android phone, he says. But he still prefers the iPhone, naturally. But I get the sense he's not necessarily so loyal. I think this is a real evaluation. And Windows does get better and better. I mean, it's got a long way to go to be a Mac, don't get me wrong. And really, the only thing it can do is improve. Steve Wozniak even surmised that Steve Jobs was reincarnated at Microsoft due to the Windows Phone showing some of the Apple's smoothness and feel that he hasn't really seen previously from Microsoft. Also related to the phone, an ex-exec at Apple said that Apple had considered a hardware keyboard for the original iPhone. Ultimately, Apple opted for a virtual keyboard only. A number of manufacturers like RIM and Motorola said that people would only go for a hardware keyboard. If they were going to really text, it needed to be a hardware keyboard. As always in this area, Apple proved them wrong. Ultimately, the iPhone's virtual keyboard led to HTC dropping all hardware keyboards. Now only a handful of companies still have a hardware keyboard on their phone. And in phone news, not exactly the iPhone, but Nokia, which used to be the world's largest phone maker, has had their third Standard & Poor's credit rating drop this month. They now have a junk rating. They also have something like 4 billion euros. Standard & Poor's expects it to be 4 million euros very quickly. Just interesting how Apple takes over, and that's that. I support it. iPad news. Survey says 94% of all tablet web traffic comes from the iPad. That's huge. 6% for all the other manufacturers combined. The iPad 2, not the new one, but the iPad 2, Apple has made a change. It now has a smaller processor. It allows the, not any more capable, just smaller. It gives the iPad 2 more battery life and lets it, well, basically more battery life, no speed difference or anything. The only way, though, to tell if you're getting this iPad 2 is to actually turn the device on, which is going to make it tricky to buy one. Even us dealers can't tell. New iPad, the shipping times are getting a little shorter. Now, in general, it's 3 to 5 days instead of 1 to 2 weeks. Experience, for me, 1 to 2 weeks in Apple land really means 3 to 4 weeks. 3 to 5 days means 1 to 2 weeks. But either way, it's getting shorter, which is good because we're very backlogged. People are going to get a rash of iPads coming in very soon. And if you need one, please come in. Bang & Olufsen, the audio maker, they make very good audio equipment. I've always been pleased with Bang & Olufsen, even though it's a little bit expensive. But they've just released, or about to release, the BeoPlay A3. It's an iPad case with built-in speakers. So when you put the iPad in it in a horizontal fashion, the speakers are above and below. You can turn the iPad from landscape or portrait mode, and the speakers will adjust appropriately to keep the left-right stereo-ness working properly. It's a stand and a case. Very nice. And in effect, it makes your iPad basically a TV or a stereo. And B&O speakers are pretty good. Logitech has a new case, too, with a solar-powered keyboard. We've spoken here on our show here a couple times about the new iPad having Bluetooth 4 with its low power consumption technology. The solar-powered case from Logitech will use Bluetooth 4 if you have a new iPad. It will work on the older Bluetooth if you don't. Very nice case, solar-powered, more battery life. The solar power does not power your iPad, but it does power the keyboard. What else is new? Touchscreens. Apple has a patent now on touchscreens with variable textures. That means as you touch the screen, the Apple's software, or app maker software, can change the texture of the screen. It can become rough, smooth, or even have dimples. Dimples are nice if you're trying to position your fingers. You can feel the dimple. And potentially, you could have a Braille iPad. That would be an interesting thing to see. MacBook Air rumors. One supplier of Air parts says Apple may be planning a $799 MacBook Air. $799, very low. Intel has been pushing very strongly the Ultrabook market. You may have seen some commercials for Ultrabooks by other manufacturers. But Apple and Intel together, the rumor there it is, $799 MacBook Air. That would be a hot seller. I wonder if the screen would be a little bit smaller than the 11-inch, but who's to say? I've often thought on the MacBook Air, because I look at the iPad and I've considered it, in a way, you've heard it said it's a super iPod. That's true, and I've often thought, you know, what I really want is not a super iPod, but a junior MacBook. The MacBook Air, actually, I realized lately, fits that role. And what's nice about it versus the iPad is it will run any apps that you want, you know, Office, whatever it is, and it holds the screen up for you while you have the keyboard. It's all built in. Very nice. And with the Thunderbolt display, you hook up the Thunderbolt cable on the back of the display or all the relevant ports you need, USB, FireWire, Ethernet, whatever. Thunderbolt can do anything. Which means with a Thunderbolt display, you can, in effect, dock a MacBook Air. Very nice, very nice. And coming off the Thunderbolt display is a power supply. So you can pull your MacBook Air out of your briefcase, put it down on the desk, connect Thunderbolt and power, and you are done. Sweet. Apple TV. Warner Brothers is the latest studio now offering 1080p movies on iTunes. They all come around. It's very good. They look great. Everyone should watch them. Some expect that this is in prep for an Apple television. I'm not certain about that. We will see. I saw another rumor that said the Apple TV now, if it happens, will be 2014. We shall see. I still don't know if it's a practical idea. I would, though, while we're on the subject of Apple TV, very much like to see an Apple TV with a cable card slot. so you can get rid of your cable box. Just use a fancy Apple display like the Thunderbolt display as your television. Hook up your Apple TV to it. You can watch TV on full screen or in a window, maybe 2 or 3 channels at once. You can keep an eye on a sports game while you watch a show. Maybe your web browser in the corner too. Very nice. I'd like to see the cable card added to the Apple TV and the Apple TV used more that way. Mobile Me. Some new changes in Mobile Me. Not iCloud, Mobile Me. As you know, Mobile Me still is ending June 30th. Make sure you download anything that you might have on your iDisk, something I still need to do, but you got another 2 months. They have extended, if you had a Mobile Me account, Apple gave you a free 20 gigs of storage on iCloud through the end of June. They've extended that now to September. So, nice gift from Apple. And interestingly, to help you move from your current OS to Lion in order to take advantage of iCloud, Apple has now started giving out free Snow Leopard DVDs. You can log into your Mobile Me account, and if you haven't converted to iCloud yet, you will see the link to download the free Snow Leopard DVD. May as well. That way, if you have Leopard, you can upgrade to Snow Leopard and then to download, pay for, of course, but you can download Lion and then move to iCloud. What else? Environmental activists in North Carolina have blocked the coal train that was bringing power to the local power station that supports Apple's data center in North Carolina. They even draped Apple logos over the coal on top of the cars so you could see them from the air. Pretty drastic. I mean, Apple's job isn't to check out the power situations at all the places that they want to put a data center. Apple makes a lot of efforts to be very environmentally responsible. They're adding the solar power farm and the fuel cell farm to the North Carolina data center and ultimately to the Oregon data center. Greenpeace even ranks Apple 4th in their guide to greener electronics. That's pretty good. Apple's made a lot of efforts towards recycling and the environment. They use smaller packaging now on their devices. They have a recycling program, which we can do for you too. They collect batteries, everything. Anything that they can do, they're really doing. I just don't know that it's fair for the environmentalists, which I strongly support in general, to be down on Apple. But at any rate, they blocked the coal train for a few hours and had to be removed. So a few of them tied themselves to the tracks. Ongoing lawsuits. Samsung has been delaying showing code to Apple in one of their many disputes. A judge has penalized Samsung, saying, and the penalty is that Samsung can no longer submit evidence of their attempt to not use Apple's patents, to show new code in the hearing. This is a significant blow to Samsung. It's going to make it more difficult for Samsung to actually win this hearing. What's interesting is that Apple and Samsung, even with all these things going on, still continue to provide each other products and supplies. Another judge ordered Apple and Samsung to reduce the number of filings that they have with each other. He's sick of hearing yet another filing. And they have to reduce it, and he really wants them to come up with a settlement. I suspect they will. They're both huge companies with a bunch of patents each other needs, a bunch of parts each other needs. They really need each other. I'm just throwing this one out there on my own. But wouldn't it be interesting if Apple bought Samsung? Although Samsung's a huge company. Apple may be bigger, but I don't know if they're big enough to swallow Samsung. We shall see. Software news. Apple has released the 10.7.4 developer update to Lion. This is the latest release of Lion. It's not out to the general public yet. I hope your Macs are all on 10.7.3. Developers have been told to focus on graphics, iCal, Time Machine, Mail, and printing. I'm interested to see what they could have changed in printing. And in Time Machine, for that matter. It works pretty well now. Also about Time Machine, the new Lion versions functionality that's really so far just in certain software like iWork, Omni software has it, lets you use versions. When you want to go back to a different version of your document, you choose Open Version from the File menu, and you get a Time Machine type view of your document where you can go back to previous versions. It's pretty cool looking. The older Save As technology is gone, although you can save a duplicate. What's nice about saving a duplicate is that both the duplicate and the original are open. Save As, you would save the copy, and then you were working on the copy, not the original anymore. One program, Word, I think, which probably means Office, does actually have Save a Copy As, but it's not on the File menu directly. You would have to add it there. Apple has also released the latest version of Mountain Lion, developer release again. Mountain Lion is supposed to be out early this summer, hopefully with new MacBooks. We'll come back to that in one moment. A couple of the things that are new in the latest version of Mountain Lion: it adds a Do Not Disturb feature to the notification center. This is not yet available on iOS 5 or the Mac, but there are traces in the code of this feature on both devices. I'd like to see that. I'd like to have a Do Not Disturb on my phone while still keeping it on. I do use the little switch on the side to at least put it to silent, but sometimes it'd be nice if it didn't even vibrate, like here during our TV show. Mountain Lion now has AirPlay mirroring, which lets you show your Mac on a remote device, such as an Apple TV connected to a screen or something. Canex, a company that makes parts, has just released an HDMI to VGA device. So if you connect your HDMI to VGA device to your Apple TV and you're doing a presentation or something, you can then connect a normal projector, giving you wireless display from your MacBook, your iPad, whatever. Very nice at doing presentations, especially with an iPad. You can walk around the room while controlling your slideshow. Very sweet, very sweet. And nobody else has it, of course. More Mountain Lion things: reminders and notes. Reminders is great. I'd like a little bit more with the GPS reminders so that it can really tell me to do something in a certain location without that location having to be in my address book. Maybe the Mountain Lion version of that will do that. You know, pick a location of Google Maps and say, remind me right here. Maybe even the OpenStreetMaps. We'll see. But still, they continue to move along. Adobe has released CS Creative Suite 6. Anybody who bought Creative Suite 5 from us in the last month or so is eligible for a free upgrade. Since March 26th, that's what it is. Just come in, we'll tell you what to do. FileMaker 12 is out. Again, free upgrade if you got it recently. Suitcase 4 is out, Adobe Suitcase 4. If you bought Extensive Suitcase 4. If you got Extensive Suitcase 3 in the last few weeks, free upgrade, just ask us how. Web browsers. Internet Explorer, which one time had 90-something% of the web browsing market, is down to 50%, but actually has had a small rebound in the last week. One of the companies that tracks this has shown that it's gone from 53 to 54%. Pretty nice. Firefox has had a small drop in its user base. Chrome has had a small gain. And Safari, our favorite because it's the Apple product, has had a small drop. Although Safari has a couple of advantages you don't get from the others. One is it does bonjour browsing. So if you have to administer a printer, say, on your network, you can see it right in the browser. No one else does that. And Safari's bookmarks will sync to Safari on your iOS devices, your iPads, pods, and phones. That's a great feature. Add a bookmark in one place, it's available in all the places. Firefox has a way to do that, but it requires some separate syncing mechanism, and naturally is a little bit clunky. Safari, you just add the bookmark, and you're done. A minute later, it's on your other devices. Mobile browsers, Safari dominates far and away. Like 94%, like we said before, of iPad browsing is Safari, and well over 70% of all mobile browsing is Safari. Just goes to show Apple's penetration in this area. Apple is about to release one last Java update. That latest flashback Trojan on the Mac came through a Java vulnerability. Apple has taken over, for Mac purposes, Java development for a while. They're releasing one more Java update. The biggest thing it has, it fixes some vulnerabilities, but the biggest thing that it has is it allows Java to cooperate with Java from another supplier, namely Oracle, which is the company that owns Java after they took over Sun. Java 7, released by Oracle for the Macintosh, will be available at some point this summer. As always, Java is less and less in use, but it is very useful, especially on highly interactive websites. Sometimes there's just no other way to get stuff done. We believe that it's in your best interest to keep your Java up to date. Go for Java 7 when you can, and just keep it current. New MacBooks. Rumors are still very strong that there'll be new MacBooks released with Mountain Lion. More and more things we're seeing. The supply is starting to slow down a little. I believe this is happening. Right now, if you'd like a good deal, we're selling our demo model MacBooks. Just come on in. We'll give you a huge discount. Take one of them from us. AT&T's CEO, some interesting comments from him. He said, in retrospect, unlimited data was a bad idea. Although, interestingly, they made $6.1 billion in revenue last quarter alone just from data. It's pretty good. They say that when the iPhone first came out, they were more supporting Steve than they were the phone. Steve was the thing that made AT&T take the iPhone. Certain services such as iMessage and Facebook and Skype and some others have an equivalent to. iMessage allows you to, in effect, text to other devices, whether they're phones, computers, or whatever, avoiding the SMS service that phones provide and the charges and SMS income that AT&T and other carriers get. So the CEO of AT&T calls iMessage and other things like that disruptive. I'm sure they are, but it's all changing. I predict down the line at a certain point that the mobile phones will only offer data service. One of the things that you'll do with that data service will be voice, will be iMessage, will be video, will be all of these things. But data will be the only service that you can subscribe to, and you'll subscribe to some quantity of data, and they will stop separating voice and all. Sure, there'll be a phone number, but it will be data service. And even the phone number, it's got some years yet, but I think the phone number's on its way out too. What's nice about email is, like, if you want to contact our TV show at email, you go to appletalk@creativecomputing.com and email us. You don't have to know what device we're on, how we're checking that email, who at our company is checking that email, nothing. You email it and you're done. Unlike the phone, where if you want to call somebody, you have to call their home and then their office, then work, and the cell phone, whatever. There's so many phone numbers. With the phone system, you're in charge of finding which one the person has. With the email system, you're not. The network does that. I predict convergence in that area and the ultimate demise of the phone number. But I think it's got a good 7 or 8 years yet. Should write that down. Quote me on that. The show should still be on the air. What else? Google. Google is facing a $10 million fine for the breach of security in Safari, as per the, I think it's the FTC that's fining them. And they must follow consumer data protection policy strictly for the next 20 years. They really got in trouble for this, and it was wrong. Buzz did it. Buzz needed to breach it in order for its features to work, and Buzz is now gone from Google too. Moving on, Liquid Metal. The Liquid Metal company that Apple bought, one of the inventors of the Liquid Metal, who's now an Apple employee, says it will take a few years before the technology is developed enough for Apple to make a mainstream case, like the entire case of a MacBook with it. Probably at a cost of $300 to $500 million, which Apple can afford. They have $100 billion sitting in the bank. But they do predict that we'll start to see little parts like hinges and other things made out of the liquid metal technology. So we'll see. It's coming, though. Apple stores, are they preparing for a big event? Again, it's just a rumor. An administrative assistant for UPS says that Apple's customs activity indicates something big coming soon. She says that there's been lots of high security around their import activity. The volume is going through the roof. She's considered a reliable source due to her job and access to this kind of thing. She shared this info with an iPhone 5 blog site, which rumor people who read them, mongers, is that what that's called? Rumor mongers, have taken to mean that perhaps the rumor is related to the iPhone 5. She was positive that this was not iPads coming in, and pretty confident that it did not relate to MacBook Pros or MacBook Airs. So we shall see. It is amazing. This is a UPS administrative assistant. It's amazing how anybody with any sort of Apple news, any rumor whatsoever, is immediately glommed onto by everybody out there. Speaking of news, one of the people on the iPhone development team, which works on the jailbreak, has said that they have cracked the iPhone or iOS 5.1, and an untethered jailbreak is now possible. There's no tools publicly available yet, but they're coming soon. I don't know yet whether that means that the new iPad can be jailbroken, but you'll hear it first here on Apple Talk by Creative Computing. A couple more things. Apple is about to have a hiring spree for their Israel R&D center. The center's in Haifa, in the Scientific Industries Center. Dozens of positions are to be available. Israel has a lot of very high technology, and Apple's trying to seize that. People are very well educated. Good luck for Apple. It incorporates employees from Anobit, which is an Israeli flash memory company that Apple bought. They make very advanced flash memory, and I'm sure we'll see that coming down the pike in Apple products. And they're about to go on a hiring spree to hire dozens of positions. So if you need a job and you're in Israel and watching our show, go apply to work for Apple. And finally, the Prime Minister of Ireland visited Apple's plant. thank Apple for bolstering the local economy and that of Europe as a whole. That's a pretty big thing to get a visit from a prime minister. No prime minister or any government official has ever come to Creative Computing. You out there that are listening to us, and Apple has announced as part of that they're planning to add 500 more jobs in Ireland. Apple continues to grow. And that's it. Thank you for watching Apple Talk by Creative Computing. If you would like to suggest a topic or ask a question on our show, please email appletalk@creativecomputing.com. Please visit Creative Computing for all your Apple needs, sales, or service. We are located at 423 Wall Street across from the Princeton Airport on Route 206. You can call us at 609-6833-MAC. Visit us online at www.creativecomputing.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, join our circle on Google+. We look forward to seeing you. Mention our Apple Talk TV show to any sales staff and receive 10% off accessories.